When someone disrespects you, it is natural for anger to rise. But remember, your power is in how you respond, not in their words or actions. Do not give away your peace for a moment of satisfaction. When someone disrespects you, the first feeling that often rises is anger. It is sudden and loud, as if it demands your attention and your response. The mind tells you that you must react immediately, that you must defend yourself, or that you must punish the one who has crossed you. But this is a trap, a chain that binds you to the moment and to the whims of others. Anger is not something that happens to you. It is something you choose to entertain. It is a flame that feeds itself only when you allow it to. You do not need to let it grow. You do not need to give it space in your mind or your body. You can observe it, acknowledge its presence, and decide not to act from it. Calmness is the natural state of the mind that is not swayed by external events. It does not mean indifference to what is wrong, but it means holding your own peace as the highest priority. You can recognize that the disrespect exists, that the words or actions of another are offensive, but this recognition does not require a storm of emotion. The mind that is calm evaluates, understands, and chooses wisely. It sees the difference between what is in your control and what is not. The behavior of others is never fully within your control, but your reaction always is. This is the point where choice becomes clear. You may respond with heat, with hasty words, or with frustration, but if you do, it is because you have chosen it, not because it was unavoidable. When anger arises, take a moment to pause. Notice it. Feel the heat, the tension in your body, the impulse to speak or strike. Then ask yourself if giving in to this feeling will serve you. Will it preserve your dignity, your peace, or your purpose? Often, the answer is no. Often, the momentary satisfaction of venting or retaliating is far less valuable than the lasting calm that comes from restraint. To stay calm is not weakness, it is mastery. It is mastery over impulses, over emotions, and over the desire to be controlled by the judgments of others. Understand that anger rarely changes the one who has disrespected you. Yelling, lashing out, or retaliating may make you feel justified for a moment, but it does not alter the fact that they have acted wrongly. It does not reclaim your time or restore your peace. What it does do is pull you into the same turmoil, the same chaos as they. Choosing calmness, on the other hand, separates you. It creates a space in which reason can act, not reaction. It allows you to respond with thought rather than instinct, with strategy rather than emotion. It allows you to hold your dignity intact and to remain aligned with your values. Choosing calm does not mean denying your feelings. It does not mean pretending that the disrespect did not affect you. It means understanding that the feelings themselves are natural, but the actions you take because of them are entirely yours to decide. You can let anger rise, acknowledge it, and release it. You can let it pass through you like a cloud, not a storm. You can focus instead on what you can control: your thoughts, your words, your actions. This is where true power lies. Every time you face disrespect and respond with calm rather than anger, you strengthen your mind. You train yourself to see the world clearly, to respond effectively, and to maintain control over what is yours. You begin to realize that external events are not threats to your peace unless you allow them to be. Anger is a choice, and choosing calm is an exercise in freedom. The more often you practice it, the more natural it becomes, until it is your default, your instinct, your shield against the storms of life. When someone disrespects you, the instinct is often to respond again and again, to defend yourself repeatedly, to justify your actions, or to strike back with words. The mind can trap you in a cycle, convincing you that each new insult or each new slight requires a fresh reaction. Yet in doing so, you give your power away. Every repetition feeds the drama, every echo of your response strengthens the tension, and every moment spent defending your honor keeps you entangled in someone else's choices. True strength lies in restraint, in knowing that one measured response is sufficient to assert yourself without losing your composure. Responding once is not weakness. It is the recognition that your words and actions have weight, and that they should not be wasted on repetition. To repeat is to surrender control to emotion and to the unpredictability of others. When you respond multiple times, you allow the disrespect to dictate your behavior, rather than your behavior dictating your peace. By choosing to respond only once, you assert your dignity and demonstrate clarity of mind. One firm, calm statement is far more effective than a barrage of reactions that blur your intention and weaken your presence. The first response should be deliberate and controlled. It should reflect your values and your boundaries, not the heat of the moment. This is the time to speak clearly, to set limits, and to communicate that certain behavior is unacceptable. Speak once and make it meaningful. Speak once and make it undeniable. When the statement is delivered with composure, with calm authority, and with no trace of unnecessary emotion, it carries far more weight than repeated protests or repeated defenses. The clarity of a single response can end the argument without escalation, while multiple responses often prolong conflict and increase tension. Repetition often comes from attachment to outcomes. We hope that by repeating ourselves, the other person will finally understand, finally change, finally respect us. But this hope is an illusion. We cannot control their understanding, their change, or their respect. Each repeated word is an offering to forces we cannot command. We can only control our own actions. Once the message has been delivered with calm certainty, there is nothing more to add. Any further effort is wasted energy. Respond once and then release. This allows your mind to return to its natural state of calm, free from the need to prove, defend, or fight. Responding once also trains others to understand the limits of your tolerance. When they realize that you will not be drawn into repeated arguments or escalating conflict, they begin to measure their words and actions. Boundaries are made stronger by consistency. If you respond repeatedly, the boundary becomes blurred. If you respond once and hold your ground, the boundary is clear. People learn not from your anger but from your restraint, not from your reactions but from your consistency. This is the subtle power of one measured response. There is wisdom in knowing when to speak and when to remain silent. Words have power, but silence has authority. By responding once and then stepping back, you allow the situation to exist without adding fuel to it. You show that your mind is not captive to insult, that your attention is not easily stolen, and that your dignity is intact. Silence after a single response is not submission, it is strategy. It is the recognition that life does not require you to react to every slight, and that repeating yourself is rarely necessary. Choosing to respond once requires practice and mindfulness. The first time, the mind may still cry out for repetition, for additional explanation, for justification. But each time you resist, you strengthen your discipline. You teach yourself that repetition is unnecessary, that the power of one clear, calm statement is greater than the noise of many. Over time, this becomes instinctive. You no longer feel compelled to argue endlessly. You respond once, and the rest is left to the natural order of events. When someone disrespects you, the temptation is to respond loudly, to match the intensity of the insult with your own, to allow emotion to dictate words and actions. Drama feels urgent. It feels alive. It promises satisfaction in retaliation. Yet it is an illusion. Drama is a trap that clouds judgment, erodes respect, and diminishes your control over yourself. Speaking with dignity, in contrast, is a choice of the mind and the heart. It is a decision to uphold your own standards regardless of how others behave, to show strength through composure, rather than through noise. Dignity in speech comes from understanding your own value and the impermanence of the moment. Words spoken in anger or panic may feel justified at the time, but they often linger, causing regret and fueling unnecessary conflict. Words spoken with dignity, however, carry authority, clarity, and purpose. They are measured, deliberate, and aligned with your principles. They do not need volume to be heard, nor theatrics to be respected. They are heard because they reflect a mind that is grounded, a spirit that is controlled, and a character that is consistent. Drama arises from attachment. We feel compelled to react loudly because we want to be seen, to assert our importance, or to reclaim our sense of power. Yet the more we seek to prove ourselves through spectacle, the more we tie our peace to the actions of others. Every shout, every exaggerated reaction, every performative response is an offering of control to someone else. When we speak with dignity, we reclaim that control. We recognize that our worth is not determined by their judgment, and our influence is not dependent on spectacle. One composed word spoken at the right moment holds far more weight than 1,000 angry ones. Speaking with dignity also requires simplicity. Drama thrives on excess, on long explanations, on detailed defenses, on embellishments meant to sway or overwhelm. Dignity, in contrast, thrives on clarity. A few well-chosen words spoken calmly can convey firmness, set boundaries, and establish respect without escalating conflict. Clarity removes ambiguity, leaving no room for misinterpretation. It signals confidence because a mind that is certain of itself does not need to justify or exaggerate. It signals power because one who controls their words controls the direction of the interaction. Dignity in speech also protects your inner peace. Drama engages the body and mind in unnecessary tension. The heart races, the voice shakes, and the mind churns with argument after argument. When we speak with dignity, we preserve our composure. We act rather than react. We assert our point without losing ourselves in the process. Calm, deliberate speech demonstrates that we are masters of our own minds, not captives of insult or provocation. It creates a space where reason can guide action, rather than emotion. Another aspect of dignity is listening. Speaking with dignity is not only about what you say, but also about how you receive what is said. When others speak disrespectfully, a dignified response includes the ability to remain silent until the proper words come, to listen without judgment, and to respond without haste. This restraint communicates self-respect. It communicates that you are not ruled by impulse or by the need to react, but by thoughtfulness and principle. It allows you to maintain authority in the interaction because your behavior is not dictated by the drama around you. When we practice speaking with dignity, we also influence others without confrontation. People respond more to calm strength than to loud anger. One composed statement carries far more influence than a flurry of dramatic words. Authority is quiet. It does not need noise to assert itself. Drama, on the other hand, may startle or intimidate briefly, but it rarely commands respect or long-term attention. A dignity commands respect because it is rooted in control, not in chaos, and it is consistent, not reactive. Choosing dignity over drama is a form of self-discipline. It is a recognition that the world is full of moments that could provoke anger or indignation, yet each of these moments is an opportunity to demonstrate mastery over oneself. It is a conscious decision to maintain composure, to uphold one's values, and to speak only what is necessary and true. Over time, this practice strengthens character, sharpens judgment, and fosters the ability to navigate disrespect without losing control, without giving power to chaos, and without diminishing the quiet authority that comes from self-mastery. When someone disrespects you, it is easy to take their words or actions personally. The mind can convince you that the insult, the mockery, or the slight is a judgment on your worth. You feel the heat of offense, and a part of you wants to retaliate, to prove them wrong or to defend yourself. But the truth is, their disrespect speaks far more about them than it does about you. Their behavior reveals their character, their struggles, their values, and their limitations, not your own. To understand this is to free yourself from unnecessary suffering and to maintain a calm, steady mind. Disrespect is often rooted in fear, insecurity, or misunderstanding. When someone belittles, mocks, or dismisses you, it is a reflection of their perspective, not the reality of who you are. It may reveal jealousy, frustration, anger, or ignorance. It may show a desire to dominate, to control, or to feel superior. None of this changes your value or your principles. Their behavior is theirs to manage, just as your response is yours to control. Recognizing this allows you to step back emotionally. You can observe without internalizing, see without reacting, and understand without taking offense as a personal failing. When you truly grasp that their disrespect reflects them, not you, a remarkable freedom emerges. You no longer feel compelled to defend yourself endlessly. You no longer need the validation of others to maintain your sense of worth. You can separate the event from your identity, the insult from your character. You can see the difference between the world's perception and your own reality. You remain intact, unshaken by the noise around you, because the judgment of another is not a measure of your life, your integrity, or your peace of mind. This understanding also transforms the way you respond. If you see that disrespect originates from weakness, ignorance, or insecurity, you can respond with empathy, patience, or detachment instead of anger. You can choose to educate, to guide, or simply to let the moment pass. Your actions become intentional, not reactive. You no longer mirror the chaos of another's mind. Instead, you maintain clarity, stability, and control. One who understands this principle reacts with reason, not with impulse, and with calm, not with fire. When others show disrespect, it can be tempting to internalize their criticism or insult as truth. The mind can replay the moment over and over, questioning your actions, your choices, and your worth. But this reflection is unnecessary when you recognize the source. Their disrespect is a signal about them, not a verdict on you. It is shaped by their history, their fears, and their understanding of the world. By internalizing this, you protect your sense of self. You no longer carry the burden of someone else's flaws or misjudgments. Their anger, their cruelty, or their judgment is a mirror of what they carry, not what you are. Seeing disrespect in this way also strengthens your resilience. Life will inevitably bring moments when others act harshly, unfairly, or with cruelty. If you allow each act to pierce your mind, your peace becomes fragile, and your stability is constantly threatened. But when you understand that their actions reveal them, not you, you cultivate an inner fortress. Your mind becomes a place of security, where no insult can enter without your consent. You maintain dignity because it is independent of others' behavior. This perspective also cultivates compassion. Understanding that disrespect is often a reflection of struggle allows you to respond without bitterness. You may feel disappointment, but not hatred. You may feel frustration, but not fear. By seeing the humanity, the weakness, or the limitations in their actions, you can maintain your moral clarity while avoiding unnecessary entanglement and negativity. You can act from principle, not from revenge, and from reason, not from emotion. Recognizing that disrespect reflects the other person also brings clarity to relationships. You learn whom to trust, whom to respect, and whom to distance. You become selective with your attention and energy. You see that not all criticism is valid, and not all opposition is personal. This discernment prevents you from overreacting, over-explaining, or losing yourself to conflict. Your mind is the one thing no one can take from you unless you allow it. In every moment of life, there are forces outside your control: people's words, their judgments, their actions. There are events, accidents, misfortune, and unexpected outcomes. All of these can be disruptive if you let them, but they cannot touch your inner peace unless you permit it. Protecting that peace is not selfish. It is essential. It is the foundation upon which your strength, clarity, and wisdom are built. Without it, no other virtue can thrive. Inner peace is not a passive state. It is an active practice. It requires awareness, discipline, and choice. Every time someone insults you, belittles you, or acts unfairly, you face a decision. You can allow your mind to be disturbed, to spiral into anger, resentment, or worry, or you can remain calm, observe what has happened, and decide how to respond rationally. Protecting your peace does not mean ignoring reality or pretending everything is fine. It means not giving the event power over your thoughts, your emotions, and your well-being. It is the conscious refusal to let external chaos enter your internal sanctuary. When you protect your peace, you also protect your clarity. A mind clouded by anger, fear, or anxiety cannot see clearly. Decisions made from a disturbed state are often impulsive, ineffective, and regrettable. But a calm mind, shielded by inner peace, evaluates situations objectively, acts deliberately, and navigates challenges wisely. Your inner peace is like a steady lamp in a storm. It does not stop the wind, but it illuminates the path. When you protect it, you retain control of your choices, your words, and your actions. You are no longer a victim of circumstance, but a master of your own conduct. Protecting your peace also strengthens your resilience. Life will inevitably bring insult, criticism, disappointment, and misfortune. If each event disturbs you deeply, your energy is wasted on frustration and anger. You become reactive rather than proactive, a prisoner of circumstance rather than a director of your life. But when you make inner peace your priority, disturbances are no longer destructive. They are temporary waves passing across the surface of your mind, unable to penetrate the depth of your composure. Each moment of calm becomes a demonstration of your strength, and each act of restraint reinforces your independence from the chaos of others. It is also important to recognize that protecting your peace does not require confrontation or avoidance of reality. It is not about suppressing emotion but about mastering it. You can acknowledge insult, pain, or injustice without surrendering your mind to them. You can feel anger without letting it control your actions. You can feel disappointment without letting it define your day. Inner peace is maintained not by denying external events, but by choosing which thoughts and reactions you allow to flourish. You are the gatekeeper of your mind, and it is your duty to allow only that which is constructive, rational, and aligned with your values. Protecting your peace is also an act of self-respect. When you permit chaos, drama, or disrespect to dominate your thoughts, you diminish your own value. You give power to those who do not deserve it, allowing them to shape your happiness, your focus, and your life. But when you prioritize peace, you reinforce your own boundaries. You show yourself and the world that your well-being is your responsibility, that no external force can disturb your calm without your consent, and that your time, energy, and attention are not commodities to be wasted on trivialities or the whims of others. A peaceful mind is also a source of influence. When you remain calm while others rage, when you respond with clarity while others react with chaos, you demonstrate power that is quiet but undeniable. Others are often more affected by the serenity of your response than by any argument or explanation you might offer. Protecting your peace allows you to act from strength rather than weakness, from reason rather than reaction, and from principle rather than impulse. Every choice you make to preserve your peace strengthens it further. Each time you resist the pull of anger, each time you choose calm over drama, each time you refuse to internalize disrespect, You build a mind that is resilient, steady, and unshakable. Over time, this practice becomes instinctive. Your inner peace becomes a shield that cannot be broken by insult, criticism, or misfortune, and it allows you to navigate life with a freedom and clarity that is beyond the reach of external forces. When someone disrespects you, it is easy to focus on words. Words can sting. They can twist the mind and stir emotion. The mind reacts immediately, thinking that a response is required, that a clever remark or a harsh retort will prove something, will assert dominance, or will reclaim lost honor. Yet words are fleeting. They vanish almost as soon as they are spoken. They leave no lasting mark unless backed by action, and often they serve only to prolong conflict and inflame emotion. Actions, not words, are what demonstrate true strength. Actions are tangible, lasting, and revealing. They reflect the character and discipline of the person performing them. Reacting to words alone is a trap. To respond to every insult with argument, accusation, or verbal sparring is to participate in a cycle that has no end. Words can escalate quickly. They can provoke, inflame, and create tension. They may give the appearance of control or power, but it is an illusion. Real power comes not from how loudly or cleverly you speak, but from the consistency and integrity of your actions. While words can impress temporarily, actions endure, shaping reputation, character, and influence over time. When you focus on action over words, you assert control over yourself. You choose what is meaningful. You do not waste energy on fleeting, meaningless reactions. To act with strength is to act deliberately, intentionally, and purposefully. It is to uphold your values, enforce your boundaries, and demonstrate capability without relying on noise, drama, or the reactions of others. When someone disrespects you, responding through measured action rather than verbal argument preserves your dignity. It shows that your life is not ruled by external opinions, but guided by reason and principle. Actions reveal more than words ever could. A person may speak boldly, threaten endlessly, or insult continuously, yet their words alone carry little weight without action to back them. A person who responds with quiet composure, who acts with fairness, skill, or integrity, shows a strength that cannot be matched by any speech. Your calm behavior, thoughtful decisions, and purposeful deeds signal mastery far more clearly than any argument or verbal defense. Actions become a mirror for character, while words are often shadows that fade once spoken. Choosing action over words also preserves your energy and focus. The mind, once engaged in endless verbal back and forth, becomes exhausted. Emotions run high, clarity diminishes. Opportunities are wasted while you argue about what cannot truly be controlled. By focusing on action, you direct your energy toward what matters, toward growth, problem solving, and meaningful response. Your influence is demonstrated not through cleverness, but through competence and consistency. The world may forget your words, but it cannot forget what you do. When facing disrespect, it is often enough to act with calmness and integrity. This may mean walking away, performing your duties effectively, maintaining professionalism, or responding in a measured way that reinforces your boundaries. You do not need to justify yourself verbally or defend every perceived slight. One quiet, decisive act can speak louder than hours of words. It communicates that you are not controlled by insult, that you are guided by principle, and that you are capable of maintaining composure while others falter in reaction. Understanding that words are fleeting also changes the way you view criticism or insult. If someone speaks harshly, it is their perception, their anger, their frustration being expressed. It has no inherent power over your actions or your values unless you allow it. You can acknowledge it, note it, and let it pass without letting it shape your choices. Actions remain the true measure of strength because they are intentional, controlled, and aligned with your principles. They are the lasting footprint of character, while words are temporary and often forgotten. By emphasizing action over words, you also influence others in a way that is subtle but powerful. People observe deeds more than they listen to arguments. They respect consistency, integrity, and effectiveness. Demonstrating your principles through action sets a standard that cannot be ignored or undermined by empty speech. It communicates authority, self-control, and confidence without the need for drama or defensiveness. In this way, the power of action surpasses the fleeting allure of words, building a reputation and strength that endure far beyond the moment of insult. When someone disrespects you, the first impulse is often to react loudly, to argue, to shout, or to make sure they understand the limits of what they can do. Yet true boundaries are not established through noise or theatrics. Noise may gain immediate attention, but it does not command respect. It does not solidify your position in the long term. Real boundaries are set quietly, with clarity and confidence. and they are maintained consistently without the need for constant reinforcement. A person who yells to be respected shows dependence on reaction, while one who establishes boundaries with calm authority demonstrates mastery over self and situation. Quiet boundaries come from understanding what is yours to control and what is not. You cannot control the behavior of others, but you can control your own responses, your attention and your tolerance. To set a boundary is to declare what is acceptable to you, and what is not, without demanding compliance through volume or force. It is a statement of principle, not an attempt to dominate. By being deliberate and calm, your boundary becomes an expression of integrity, not anger. It communicates your standards without aggression, and it signals that your actions are guided by reason rather than emotion. When boundaries are set quietly, they are easier to enforce. A calm, deliberate statement carries more weight than a shouted command because it shows self-control. It shows that your position is rooted in principle, not in reaction. For example, if someone speaks disrespectfully, you can calmly say, "I will not continue this conversation if you speak to me this way," and then maintain your stance. You do not need to argue, explain, or escalate. The quietness communicates strength. It creates space for reflection, both for yourself and for the other person. Boundaries are not about winning an argument, they are about protecting your mind, your values, and your peace. Noise often comes from fear or insecurity. The louder we are, the more we hope others will take us seriously. But shouting rarely convinces the mind of another. It convinces the momentarily startled or intimidated, but respect is earned through consistency, clarity, and integrity. Quiet boundaries rely on these qualities. They rely on a steady presence, repeated through action rather than words, and reinforced by the consistency of behavior over time. Others learn what is acceptable not because you shouted once, but because you maintained your limits calmly and unwaveringly. Quiet boundaries also preserve your energy. Engaging in dramatic confrontation is exhausting. It drains the mind, agitates the emotions, and often escalates conflict unnecessarily. By setting boundaries calmly, you conserve your energy for matters that truly require your attention. You maintain a clear mind and a steady hand. Rather than giving yourself to the chaos of reaction, your presence becomes steady, unshakable, and dependable. Others recognize strength not in the noise you make, but in the composure you maintain. Maintaining quiet boundaries also protects relationships. Noise often provokes defensiveness or retaliation. People may respond to shouting with anger, resentment, or continued disrespect. Calm boundaries, however, communicate clearly without attacking. They give the other person the opportunity to adjust their behavior or to reveal their true character. They invite reflection rather than confrontation. They are firm but fair, setting limits without creating unnecessary conflict. Quiet boundaries are also deeply aligned with self-respect. When you uphold your limits calmly, you demonstrate that your peace, values, and dignity matter more than the fleeting need to be heard or validated. You do not allow others' words or actions to dictate your behavior. You communicate your standards once, clearly and consistently, and then allow the world to respond without surrendering your peace. Establishing boundaries quietly requires awareness, courage, and practice. It requires knowing what is essential to protect and what can be let go. It requires patience to respond with principle rather than impulse. Every time you choose calm over drama, you reinforce your limits. Over time, this quiet discipline becomes instinctive, and your boundaries are respected without you ever needing to raise your voice, argue repeatedly, or create spectacle. When someone disrespects you, the natural inclination is often to continue speaking, to defend yourself further, to explain, justify, or clarify. The mind wants to be heard, understood, and validated. Yet, in most cases, continuing to speak only gives power to the insult, prolongs conflict, and drains your energy. The wisest course is to speak once with calm clarity, and then let silence follow. Silence is not weakness. Silence is not submission. Silence is the final demonstration of control, restraint, and wisdom. It is the shield that protects your mind, and the mirror that reflects your self-mastery. Silence after a single, firm response allows your words to carry weight. When you speak once deliberately, and with composure, your message is clear and precise. Repetition, argument, or explanation diminishes its power. It can blur the meaning, introduce emotion, and invite counter-arguments that are unnecessary. A single statement communicates confidence and sets a boundary. By following it with silence, you reinforce the importance of what was said without giving space for distraction, drama, or escalation. The quietness itself becomes a signal that your mind is not swayed, your peace is intact, and your authority comes from reason rather than volume. Silence also provides space for reflection. both for yourself and for the other person. When you stop speaking, you create a pause in which clarity can emerge. The other person has the chance to hear your words without interruption, to consider their behavior, and perhaps to realize the limits they have crossed. You, meanwhile, preserve the calm of your mind. You avoid being dragged into further argument, emotional turbulence, or reactive behavior. Silence is a protective measure that allows thought to dominate over impulse, reason to dominate over emotion, and wisdom to dominate over pride. Many feel that continued speech will persuade others or enforce respect. Yet repeated explanations, justifications, or retorts often achieve the opposite. They signal insecurity, impatience, or neediness. They invite escalation. They turn a moment that could have been brief and dignified into a prolonged struggle that drains energy and focus. In contrast, speaking once and then maintaining silence communicates certainty and self-control. It shows that your value is independent of their approval, that your boundaries are not negotiable, and that your mind is not at the mercy of external disturbances. Silence also strengthens resilience. Life will continually present insults, challenges, and provocations. If you respond to every situation with repeated words or emotional reaction, you will become weary and unsettled. But when you learn to speak once and allow silence to follow, you conserve energy and maintain composure. You protect your equilibrium, ensuring that external events do not dictate your mood, your actions, or your peace of mind. Each instance of restrained silence reinforces this habit, training the mind to remain steady and self-governing even under provocation. The power of silence is also subtle but profound in social interactions. Often, people underestimate it because it seems passive. In truth, it conveys authority, confidence, and clarity more effectively than volume or argument. When words are limited to necessity and are followed by silence, your presence alone becomes compelling. Others notice that you are not reactive. They recognize that you are guided by principle rather than by emotion. They understand that your self-respect is intact and that your composure cannot be easily disturbed. Silence becomes a tool of influence because it demonstrates strength without aggression. Silence after a firm response is a reminder of control over the internal world. Disrespect is external, and its force lies in the reaction it provokes. By choosing not to continue the verbal exchange, you claim mastery over your own mind. You acknowledge the reality of the insult, but refuse to let it penetrate your inner life. You set your boundary, assert your stance, and then withdraw from the drama, keeping your focus on what truly matters. This practice allows clarity to guide your actions and ensures that your energy is directed toward your purpose, not wasted on contention. Learning to let silence follow a firm response requires discipline. The mind will initially urge repetition, justification, or defense. The ego will demand that you be heard again and again. Yet, by practicing restraint, you reinforce the principle that your words are powerful when deliberate and restrained, and unnecessary repetition weakens rather than strengthens. Over time, this habit becomes instinctive. The quiet after a single, firm statement becomes a demonstration of composure, authority, and inner freedom. It signals that you are not a slave to insult, that your dignity is intact, and that your strength is measured not by noise, but by thoughtful restraint.